And now, raise panels. Carefully. Welcome back to the Shop on the Channel, and now it's time to cut the raised panels for the doors. The reason I say carefully is because I have no more of this figured wood, so if I mess up one of these, I'm back to using a plain piece of cherry for both sides. I did, of course, as always, I did a test piece. So the rails and styles you know about, this is the raised panel from the raised panel cutter bit that I have, although I went full bore on this this reveal here, and of course I'm going to go half that reveal on the final piece, which means back cutting to fit into the door, dry fit. Here's what the wood's basically going to look like when the finish is on it, and you can see here the reason why I'm using these for the raised panels, to give it that bit of a pop. When this thing goes together and it's on the wall, people can look at it and go, oh, that's interesting. I've already set up, obviously, the router table because of the test piece that I did. And we're going to go through the process of how to do it on the router table, do a couple of passes, and the next segment, hopefully, I will have the raised panels finished, at least to this point. Then I have to install the dado stack in the router in the table saw to do the back cutting, to have it fit the slot just right in the rails and stiles. And then we glue them up. Yay. So when I put these on the table here, they're really seem very flat. There's a slight bow in this one, but it's almost imperceptible. And with the back cut and the raised panel cut, that won't be an issue. So let's go back over to the router table and start this. Now I've picked the outsides. So I'll mark these with an O. So this is going to be flipped upside down. You'll see in the router table. I'm going to mark these with an O, the part that's outside facing the viewer. Someday I'm going to put up something here for a router table cam so we can do down shots of the router table when it's working. I know the blades, the cutter's usually hidden when you do that, but it gives you another perspective. And when I do these, I probably bring the camera down low so you can shoot in this way. Now, because this is a tight corner here, tight side of the shop for doing this. The wing cutter is, four-wing cutter is in place. I've lowered it down to where I want it to start the cutting, which is relatively shallow. We're going to start lightly. Now, every turn of this dial on the router lift is a 1/16 of an inch. I might go 3/16, but not an 1/8 of an inch. I will cut to the point where where I want to be on the raised, the center part of the raised panel that's got the straight sides. And this last cut is going to be like a 64th or a 32nd of an inch pass very slowly to give me a nice clean surface. I've got these set with turn them upside down. So that's the side that's going to, this is the side that's down that's going to go through the table itself. And the way this works is, for consistency, is I will do one piece, the first cuts, the second piece with the first cuts, raise the bit and go on from there. So let's do a little bit of a cutting here. And again, my jig worked very, very well. I'm just going to go right across like that. So let's do a couple of passes on this and on this, and then from there I'll proceed to do it, finish them off camera, and then we'll look at them when they're done. And then we get to do the back cutting. So time to do a little cutting. I need my noise cancellation, don't destroy your ears headphones. And I got to put the tunes on so I can hear the tunes, because you got to have tunes when you do the work. These came out rather nice. Like I said, it didn't go as deep here, which means this is a little bit too thick to go into the grooves in the rails and stiles. So I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to just back cut a little bit back here, a ½ inch in, a little bit of a back cut all the way around to make sure it fits not too snugly in the rails and stiles. But before we get started with that, let me talk about something on my table saw. Again, for the umpteenth time, there was discussion on social media regarding this, the Dail with dado from Freud on the saw stop. I've had this for 25 years. I've used it on this saw for 19 years. Never had an issue. Everything works fine. So one of the members on this thread said he was informed by a rep from SawStop that they consider this a wobble dado and they don't recommend it. It's not a wobble dado. I have a video on my channel, I'll link in the description, going through the whole mess. But just as a quick, let me bring the camera over here. Just as a quick, tilt it down. Maybe get down here. All right, that's about straight on. Let me bring it up a bit. It's going to throw some dust. Okay, so there is my dado head inside on the machine. Going to turn the saw on, and you tell me if there's any wobble. Yeah, obviously it's not a wobble dado. I've used wobble dados back in my deep dark past. They're dangerous. They're flimsy. They should. I don't know if they're even on the market anymore. I don't know if anybody sells those anymore. I certainly would never recommend one, and you certainly wouldn't use one on a saw stop. This is not a wobble dado. So let's go on to thinning out these sections of the raised panels so they'll fit correctly into the rails and stiles. Let me set that up, and we'll go ahead and make the cuts. I'm going to have to sneak up on this because I don't need to take much off. This is just a little bit more than 1/4 inch. Those grooves are just 1/4 inch or a tad under 1/4 inch. So it's just a matter of sneaking up on it. I have my gauge here. I set the height to where I think would be the first cut. It's very low, very small. Did a test piece, of course. So let me go ahead and do run down until on one side until I get the thickness that I want. Then I'll run all 4 pieces through, both pieces, all 4 sides through. And we'll see what we come up with. And this is going to make it fit correctly in here, and with a little bit of play for expansion. There it is. It's a little loose. I might drop that down for the rest of the cuts, but that won't matter. It's going to hold it in place. But so now I've got it. Oops. Now I've got a bit of a reveal in the back as well. So let me go ahead and finish this. Get these done, and we'll start assembling these doors. Glow up time. As I said, earlier. I'm using the room temperature. High glue gives me a lot longer working time. I forget what the number is, but it's I'll put it in the description. So what I've done here is I'm setting up my workbench for the clamping fixture. By the way, these are called Spaceballs. They are in fact called Spaceballs, one word. These are for raised panels. They are crushable, and what they do is they take up space between your rail and stile and the panel and snugs the panel up so even though if it's loose, there's no rattle and everything works. It just mounts it all together better. I've already put them in this here. I'm not ready to glue it just yet. I have to take that apart to do it. So what I'm doing is, what I first did was put some of this packing tape down on the bench where the glue lines are, which are only at the ends, and that prevents this part from gluing to the bench if there's any squeeze out on the other side. I have a piece of wood clamped into the vise right here. That's my reference for getting it square, and then clamps and everything lying around here that's going to help me get it all together. I do one at a time, and I have to let it sit for the working time plus a couple of hours just to make sure that it's complete. So this is the first one that's going to get glued up. I need to take it apart. The space balls are already in here. See? Can you see them? Space balls. So I'm going to put this down just like that. And I'm only going to put glue here. Not going to put any glue here, but here and here, so that I get as little squeeze out as possible. Oh yeah. Space balls. One there and one there. I have a acid brush for doing the spreading of the glue. Okay. So we're going to take the clamps, we're going to glue it this way. It wants to move, so. Oops. I got a little bit. Got to tap it down just a little bit. Okay, that's that. Tap that one in place. So now I've got it pretty well tightened up and flush here and flush here. So I'm making sure that the rails are flush with the stiles. And that's why you still got it. This is what I meant by working time. Okay, so that's that. And now I've got it all clamped up. And now I want to measure, oops, sorry about that. Gotta move this clamp here and tap this in again. What I mean by moving the clamp is I need to have space to get the tape measure in. By the way, this stuff cleans up with water, just like PVA glue does. I'll make sure I'm square. 25 and a little over a fat 1/8. .25 and a fat 1/8, that's perfectly square. Now, the important thing. I need to get this absolutely flush with the tape, with the bench, so that as it cures straight without any bends in it or whatever. And you know what I mean, wood moves and whatever, and after you cut it, whatever. So that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm doing here. So I'm making sure that this is absolutely down to the bench. It's absolutely down to the bench here with a couple of clamps. And I can see places I need to do some sanding, of course. Perfect. Voila. And a bit of a closer look. You can see I've got this clamped with the holdfast, and that's flush with the bench. I've got these clamped this way just to hold it, to get the glue to cure, and then clamped here so it's tight to the bench. So basically it's hopefully coplanar, whatever, with the bench, and thereby once it's cured and I pull it out of this little jig, it'll be perfectly straight in that dimension and this dimension. So now we wait. Yes, why it is the next day. And the glue up is finished on this door. It came out really nice. Let's see, I went to, yeah, that's the way it's going to go. Those are going to be pointing up. The grain is going to point up in both directions, like that. So with both doors. So this is, I'm really happy the way that came out. I'll do the next one off camera. And then we have to fit these to the cabinet correctly, which means a little bit of shaving, a little bit. It's always the case when you're doing cabinetry like this. The door or the drawer might need a little bit of work to fit perfectly or as perfectly as you can within the cabinet, which is sitting right over there. And then we'll mount the doors in place, and that'll be the next video. So let me proceed with this, and then in the next video we can mount the doors to the cabinet. And then, of course, the last steps are to buy the wood, plane down the shelves. There's going to be 3 shelves, and plane down the backboards because, you know, you can't go to the local store and buy 1/2-inch wood. You can get little 1/2-inch wood from Lowe's, but I don't know how much that would cost to do this. I can get one big piece of pine and just run the whole thing through the planer, and we're good to go. So until we come back to do those things, make great things out of wood.